The third jhana. The third jhana is significantly different from the first and second in many ways, and is probably the most important jhana to understand, since it basically turns everything you think about meditation and progress on its head, thus causing endless confusion and frustration for meditators who don't know what it is about and what to look for, and even for plenty who do. From a certain perspective, understanding the third jhana is the key to mastery, whether that mastery is of concentration practice, insight practice, or a fusion of the two. Some of you might ask here, but what about the fourth? Well, if you attain the fourth strangely is no big deal in comparison, and if you don't discern what is so different about the third, you are unlikely to attain the fourth, particularly if you are the sort of person to force things into narrow boxes and categorical ways of perceiving things. If you are naturally able to broaden and relax into it, rather than forcing it, then the third will probably not be a big deal for you. But if you can't relax into it, then giving a lot of attention to this section will pay off in large ways and is essential for real progress into the higher modes of attention. The problem with the third jhana is that it is broad, and not just broad, but sensations at the center of attention can also tend to be the least clear of any of the jhanas. This can be extremely confusing for those who wish to keep looking at the center of attention for answers, since, in the third jhana, that is not where the party is. The party is in the periphery of attention, those areas around the center of attention, but we may tend to think of good attention as being one-pointed, tightly focused, and the like, because that way of working served us so well in the first two jhanas, and because we generally are woefully underdeveloped at paying attention as broadly as the third jhana demands. Most people have a lot of work to do to learn how to get what the third jhana is about, either phenomenologically or conceptually. I have often wondered if many hours of watching a screen, rather than walking in forests listening to and watching what is all around us, might contribute attentional conditioning that makes the first two jhanas easier and the later two harder. In addition to the spatial or geometric problem of the breadth of the third jhana, there is also the phase problem in it, which is more of a subtle perceptual and even temporal problem. Specifically, attention seems out of phase in the third jhana, such that those who were seeing things arise and manifest with great clarity in the second jhana may now notice that everything seems to be just vanishing when you are most looking for it. As the third jhana's natural strength involves clarity regarding the end of sensations, which is the direct antithesis of the first and second jhanas, in which every time you look for something, there it is, or even better, it just shows up clearly without much or any work at all. When faced with these unexpected attention and phase problems, which by their nature are not generally clear to most practitioners beyond a sense that something is attentionally different or wrong feeling, most meditators regress and attempt to apply the first jhana way of working, involving strong effort, to a problem that requires even more the reverse of that than the second jhana did. In the second jhana, you could relax, or at least not be nearly as effortful, and jhanic qualities and the object of attention would just manifest. However, in the third, you must let phenomena in the center of attention not quite be there, not really be clear, not really be present, and allow the phase problem to just do its weird out-of-phase thing, since if you try to force it to be something it is not, then like a Chinese finger trap that just gets tighter as you pull harder, it won't let you win that way. It would be like trying to calm a pool of water by patting down each ripple. This very subtle, broad, gentle way of working is counterintuitive for many, and hard for most even when they are told about how to adjust their attention until they get the hang of it. After the glory of natural, easy, focused, centralized clarity, that is the second, the third jhana's broad, diffuse, and out-of-phase vagueness can really be an adjustment. The third jhana's tagline might be, "Go broad or go home." Despite our ideals of steady, focused one-pointedness, the third jhana is a significantly more sophisticated form of attention, and learning how to pay attention in it is the necessary setup for the fourth jhana. We learned a lot about the center of attention and about objects over there in the first and second jhanas, But the third jhana begins to include spacious elements, however initially vague, and peripheral, the background elements, however initially unclear. Without learning about spacious sensations and the background, you won't be able to put your whole experience field together in the way the fourth jhana does, and thus won't get the complete picture of what is going on. For those of you who read and practice from John Yates, aka Chuladasa's material, the first two jhanas teach you a lot about what he terms attention. The third jhana teaches you a lot about what he terms awareness, and the fourth jhana teaches you how to combine these together in a balanced and complete way. Further, for those who get the feel of the third jhana, the vague, diffuse, out-of-phaseness gives the third jhana its best elements, which are equanimous, subtly blissful, cool, and restful. That said, these elements are not as easy for most to detect as the positive aspects of the first and second jhanas, which tend to be more obvious since they are coarser. For those who can appreciate the third jhana's strengths, they are found to be preferable even to the fun elements of the second. The third jhana, in its more shamatha form, is marked by pervasive, restful, deeper, more open, easier, and calmer bliss than the second, like being submerged in a pleasantly cool pool at twilight. However, for those who are in more of an insight mode, these classic jhanic factors, so often associated with the third jhana in the texts, may seem a million miles away. Here is one of the more pronounced areas where the insight and concentration maps diverge. More on that later when we talk about the stages of insight generally referred to as the knowledges of suffering, aka the dark night. Also, if we are using objects that are not somatic, such as visualization objects or a refined object like the breadth of attention of that jhana, the cool, restful body bliss may be subtle or even absent, as the mind is focused elsewhere.